May the river guide you is a common blessing or farewell spoken by followers of Demetai and Orthodox Comhlachts. The sacred river is believed to be the source of vitality flowing from and to God, the progenitor of all creation, to fuse souls with light and life. Each new life, community, family, or nation creates or adds to a network of complex and interconnected tributaries that flow to the sacred river. Those who discern and obey God's will by practicing love and mercy are said to follow the course of these tributaries and enter the sacred river which carries them to the tranquil valley upon the passing of their bodies. While the sacred river is eternal and bursts the very streams of life that feed back into it, the streams themselves are finite and destined to one day rejoin God. Those who fight against the Comhlacht's doctrines or become so morally confused as to no longer recognize them are fated to one day become stuck with their soul eternally baked into the clay of a dried streambed after the purifying water they were meant to follow has moved on without them to rejoin the sacred river. The Comhlacht is the oldest and most widely practiced religion in Eamhna. While roughly 2/3 of the island's populace live in isolated tribes or communities which are not associated with the traditions of God, it has been adopted almost uniformly by the relatively civilized coastal powers. It existed in an underground state during the reign of the Magisters, and its members were one of the few rebellious factions on the islands that managed to survive numerous purges by the Empire. The Demetai, the people most responsible for the spread of the Comhlacht to the other tribes after the calamity, claimed that both of their people and the worship of God existed on the island even before the Magisters' arrival to Eamhna. This goes against the common understanding that the Magisters lived in Eamhna prior to humanity, and most believe that, while the Demetai may have been one of the earliest peoples imported by the Empire, their claim of being true natives is false. Some copies of the sacred texts of the Comhlacht, called the Accords, survived the initial fires of the calamity as they had been hidden away in the wilderness due to their banned nature. These texts are said to have been brought to Eamhna by angels on white vessels with sailcloth woven from fire. They largely chart the creation of humanity by God and their journey, both past and future, through the mortal age to join him eternally in the tranquil valley. They also include sermons or prayers said to be inspired by the sacred river itself. The Comhlachts are a monotheistic religion that call on its adherents to practice charity, mercy, love, self-sacrifice, humility, and the sanctification of all human life. They have many codified rituals of worship, the most important of which is a monthly gathering where the Accords are read by a priest, and they have a long and intricate monastic tradition. In practice, adherents can often be intolerant of what they consider pagan worship, but the doctrine of Comhlacht teaches that even those who have not been converted have a small possibility of navigating their way to the sacred river if they follow the natural instincts for good instilled in all people. While more souls worship God than ever before, the Comhlacht itself has become divided in recent years. Followers of God fall under one of three traditions: the Demetai Comhlacht, the Orthodox Comhlacht, and the cult of Eamhna. The Demetai tradition claimed to be the direct successors of Saint Eamhna, who founded the first Comhlacht. It was the Demetai missionaries and martyrs who were largely responsible for the early adoption of the religion, and they have the longest-standing line of appointed heads of their Comhlacht, called the Daynal. The Orthodox Comhlacht follows many of the same traditions as the Demetai Comhlacht, and even holds the Daynal in special regard. They view the Daynal as an important but symbolic position and consider their words worthy of deep consideration, but not necessarily ones of spiritual authority. This difference stems from a disagreement between the Demetai and the Orthodox Comhlachts on both the chronological order and translations of the original Accords. The original Accords have long since been lost, and the oldest texts available were transcriptions that were made from scriptures that were fading and badly damaged during the tumultuous years following the collapse of the Empire. Nearly 2 centuries ago, a Demetai priest named Eamhna, a great war chieftain who had been converted in his adult life, came into conflict with Daynal Charity, who was said to have lived in excess and to have held the Demetai people in higher regard than the clans that had converted after the reign of the Magisters. Eamhna argued that the Demetai clerics had purposely mistranslated the Accords to place more importance on the role of the Daynal, who was almost always Demetai-born. He was also critical of the Comhlacht's hoarding of wealth and preached that it needed to realign itself with one of its central missions of charity. Eamhna's efforts did eventually lead to reform in the Demetai Comhlacht, but not before he was assassinated by what most agree were agents of Daynal Charity. His death eventually led to a schism, with many clerics forming a liturgical council, which leads the Orthodox Comhlacht to this day. The primary disagreements between the Orthodox and Demetai Comlachts are in regards to the role of the Daynal in the Comlach and the translations and order of the Accords. The Accords contain 6 holy texts, all describing various eras of the mortal world, both past and present. Some of the texts are considered historical accounts, while others, depending on the tradition, are taught to be allegorical. The Demetai consider Nymoth to have been an important saint, but nothing more. They believe that the accord humanity is currently living through is one that describes the infancy of human spirituality. The Orthodox Church, on the other hand, considers Nymoth to have been a prophet described in one of the Accords, who was supposed to usher in a new era. They believe that they are living through an accord that describes a golden age of learning and the gradual spread of the Comlach to all corners of the world. While there isn't any small amount of strain between the Comlachs, they do maintain relations, and an adherent to the Demetai Comlach is permitted to attend the worship services of the Orthodox Comlach, and vice versa if there isn't another alternative. The same cannot be said for the cult of Nymoth, which is not in harmony with either of the two Comlachs. The cult of Nymoth is a mysterious and almost universally reviled sect practiced by those who believe that Nymoth was an angel sent to alarm Eamhna of the end times. They believe they are living through an apocalyptical text that the other Comlachs agree occurred during the reign of the Magisters, when the worship of God was heavily persecuted. They are ascetics who believe fire was revoked by God due to humanity's sins and to assist in purification through sacrifice before the time of judgment. They view alchemy as a heresy meant to subvert the will of God and are actively hostile to those who employ it. They also believe that the veil between earth and the desiccated streams has been weakened, and demons possess the unfaithful who must either be killed or purified for humanity to be redeemed. This cult generally exists in loosely connected and isolated tribes on the island, which has made stamping it out prove to be very difficult. Regardless of the traditions, all followers of God believe that He is the sole deity within creation, that He recognizes love as the highest virtue, and so created other beings who could mirror His desire to love, and that ordered behavior and temperance are in strict accordance with His will.